The graveyard of civilizations. The holographic display flickered to life in the center of the Galactic Council chambers, showing a planet that seemed to pulse with an ominous red glow. Viridian Prime hung in the void like a blood-red eye, its surface completely shrouded in crimson fog that swirled and moved as if alive. Captain Sarah Cross stood at the edge of the assembled crowd, her weathered hands clasped behind her back, as she studied the planet that had become known throughout the galaxy as the Graveyard of Species. The reputation was well-earned. 23 alien civilizations had attempted to colonize or even explore Viridian Prime. None had returned. Honored delegates, announced the council speaker, a tall, ethereal being whose translucent skin glowed with soft blue light. We gather today to discuss the prohibition of any further expeditions to the world designated as Viridian Prime. Ambassador Kethtar rose from his seat, his reptilian features showing the deep concern that had marked his people's approach to this mysterious world. The Saurian delegate's scales shifted from green to a worried brown as he spoke. The Crimson Veil has claimed 23 expeditions, the mightiest warriors of the Kregan Empire, the most advanced scientists of the Zephyrian Collective, even the incorporeal scouts of the Ethereal Communion, all consumed by that accursed fog. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The assembled species had lost friends, colleagues, and entire research teams to Viridian Prime's deadly embrace. The planet's crimson atmosphere had proven impenetrable to every form of technology, every type of protection, every strategy employed by the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Dr. Marcus Vale leaned forward in his seat beside Sarah, his scientific curiosity evident despite the grim subject matter. The xenobiologist had spent months studying the fragmentary data transmitted from doomed expeditions before their signals went dark. "The atmospheric readings are fascinating," he whispered to Sarah. "The fog isn't just a weather phenomenon. It responds to the presence of life forms, actively pursuing and surrounding them." Sarah nodded grimly. The reports were consistent across all 23 failed missions. Ships would enter the planet's atmosphere, their crews would report the crimson fog approaching their vessels, and then silence. Rescue missions found no trace of the expeditions, no wreckage, no signs of struggle. The Crimson Veil simply swallowed them whole. "The evidence is clear," continued Ambassador Kethtar, his voice carrying the weight of countless losses. "Viridian Prime is beyond the reach of any known civilization. The planet must be declared a forbidden zone, off-limits to all galactic traffic." The council speaker's luminous eyes swept across the chamber. "Are there any objections to this proposal?" Sarah Cross stepped forward, her boots echoing in the suddenly silent chamber. "The Terran Federation objects." A collective gasp filled the air. The newest members of the Galactic Council, humanity had only recently been granted full diplomatic status. Their objection to such a unanimous decision shocked the assembled delegates. "Captain Cross," the council speaker said, surprise evident in his ethereal voice, "surely you cannot be suggesting that humanity attempt what 23 advanced civilizations have failed to achieve." Sarah's jaw set with determination. "That's exactly what I'm suggesting, honored speaker. Humanity requests permission to mount an expedition to Viridian Prime." The chamber erupted in concerned chatter. Ambassador Kethtar stood again, his scales now a deep red of alarm. "Captain Cross, with respect, humanity is still young in galactic terms. Your species has achieved remarkable things, but this is different. The Crimson Veil doesn't just kill, it erases. We have no idea what happens to those who enter its embrace, which is precisely why we need to try." Sarah replied firmly. 23 species have failed using conventional approaches. Perhaps it's time for an unconventional one. Dr. Vale stood beside his captain, his scientific mind already racing with possibilities. "Our preliminary analysis suggests that each species approached Viridian Prime with similar methodologies. Heavy shielding, advanced technology, attempts to overpower or bypass the atmospheric conditions. What if the solution isn't to fight the Veil, but to understand it?" The ethereal council speaker considered this. Dr. Vale, are you suggesting that the Crimson Veil is more than just a dangerous atmospheric phenomenon? I'm suggesting that we don't know what it is, Marcus replied honestly. And until we do, we're shooting in the dark. The pattern of failures suggests that the veil responds to different species in similar ways. It's almost as if it's intelligent. This statement sent another wave of concerned murmurs through the chamber. The idea that the Crimson Veil might be a sentient entity was terrifying to species that had already lost so much to its deadly embrace. Ambassador Kethtar's scales shifted to a deep purple of worry. Captain Cross, Dr. Vale, even if your theories are correct, what makes you believe humanity can succeed where others have failed? The Kregan Empire possessed military might beyond your current capabilities. The Zephyrian Collective had technology that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. The ethereal communion existed partially outside normal spacetime. If they could not overcome the veil, what hope do humans have? Sarah smiled grimly. Ambassador, you're asking the wrong question. You're asking what we have that they didn't have. But maybe we should ask what they had that we don't have. The council speaker leaned forward with interest. Explain. Every species you've mentioned approached Viridian Prime as conquerors or scientists seeking to claim or study the planet, Sarah said. They came with the assumption that the veil was an obstacle to overcome, a problem to solve, a threat to neutralize. But what if it's none of those things? Dr. Vale nodded enthusiastically. What if the veil is simply afraid? What if it's been defending itself this entire time? The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The idea that the Crimson Veil might be acting in self-defense rather than aggression was revolutionary. It suggested that perhaps the solution wasn't to fight the veil, but to communicate with it. This is speculation, Ambassador Kethtar said, though his scales had shifted to a more neutral brown. Even if true, how would you propose to communicate with an atmospheric entity that has killed thousands? Sarah stepped closer to the holographic display of Viridian Prime. The same way humanity has always dealt with the unknown, Ambassador, carefully, respectfully, and with the understanding that we might be the ones who need to change our approach. The council speaker was quiet for a long moment, his ethereal form seeming to pulse with thought. Captain Cross, the Galactic Council has a responsibility to protect its member species. Granting permission for humanity to attempt this mission could be sending your people to their deaths. Honored Speaker, Sarah replied, humanity has always thrived on the edge of the impossible. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the journey to the stars. We don't ask for the Council's blessing, only for the right to try. And if you fail? Kethtar asked softly. If the Crimson Veil claims humanity as it has claimed all others, Sarah's expression hardened with resolve. Then at least we'll fail doing what humans do best, fighting for understanding instead of conquest, reaching out instead of striking first, and refusing to give up in the face of the impossible. The debate continued for hours, but eventually, the Council reached its decision. Humanity would be granted permission to attempt a mission to Viridian Prime, but with strict conditions. The expedition would be limited to a single ship with a volunteer crew. No rescue missions would be authorized if they failed. And all data would be transmitted continuously to the Council for analysis. As the session concluded, Ambassador Kethtar approached Sarah and Marcus. Captain Cross, I hope you understand what you're attempting. 23 species have tried to unlock the secrets of Viridian Prime. Each believed they had the key to success. Sarah nodded respectfully. I understand, Ambassador. But there's something you should know about humans. We're not very good at giving up. And we have a bad habit of trying to talk to things that want to kill us. Kethtar's scales shifted to what might have been amusement. That attitude has served your species well in joining the galactic community. I pray it serves you well on Viridian Prime. As they left the council chambers, Dr. Vale looked at his captain with a mixture of excitement and concern. Sarah, I hope you know what we're getting into. We're about to attempt something that has never been done before. Sarah gazed out at the stars through the station's massive viewing ports. Marcus, humanity didn't get to the stars by playing it safe. We got here by being willing to try what others thought was impossible. Tomorrow, we start preparing for the most important mission in human history. The Crimson Veil awaited, and for the first time in its existence, it would face a species that approached not with conquest in mind, but with the radical idea that perhaps the deadliest enemy could become the greatest ally. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had a reputation for achieving the impossible. The Human Solution. 3 months later, the UES Discovery approached Viridian Prime with a crew of 12 volunteers who had trained extensively for this unprecedented mission. Captain Sarah Cross stood on the bridge, watching as the crimson planet grew larger on their view screen. The swirling red fog that covered the entire surface seemed to pulse and shift, as if sensing their approach. "Atmospheric entry in 10 minutes, Captain," reported Engineer Riley Brooks from her station. The young woman had specialized in atmospheric dynamics specifically for this mission, studying every scrap of data from the 23 failed expeditions. "All systems are green, and our communication relay with the Galactic Council is functioning perfectly." Dr. Marcus Vale looked up from his xenobiology station, where he had been monitoring the planet's energy readings. "Sarah, I'm detecting something unusual. The Vale's movement patterns are changing. It's not random, it's responding to our presence." Commander Jake Steele, the mission's tactical officer, frowned at his displays. "Responding how, Doc?" "It's curious," Marcus said, surprise evident in his voice. "Instead of the aggressive convergence patterns we saw in the archived footage from other expeditions, the Veil seems to be maintaining its distance while studying us." Sarah moved to the tactical display. "Show me." The main screen shifted to display the Crimson Veil's movement patterns. Unlike the recordings from previous expeditions, where the fog had immediately swarmed toward incoming vessels, the Veil was circling at a respectful distance, its tendrils reaching out tentatively before withdrawing. "It's almost like it's—" Riley paused, searching for the right words. "Like it's trying to figure out what we are without getting too close." "That's because it is," Sarah said quietly. "All the other expeditions approached with heavy shielding, weapons ready, treating the Veil as a hostile entity. We're coming in with minimal defenses, broadcasting peaceful intentions. It doesn't know what to make of us." The ship shuddered slightly as they entered Viridian Prime's upper atmosphere. The crimson fog surrounded them, but unlike in the archived recordings, it didn't press against their hull aggressively. Instead, it seemed to flow around the Discovery like water around a stone. "Hull integrity holding," reported Riley. "The Veil isn't trying to penetrate our shields." "Because we're not trying to penetrate it," Marcus observed. "We're moving slowly, non-aggressively. It's responding in kind." Commander Steele remained skeptical. "This could be a trap. Maybe it's luring us deeper before striking." "Maybe," Sarah acknowledged. "But that's not what the energy readings suggest." "Marcus, what are you seeing on the bioscanners?" Dr. Vale's fingers flew over his console as he analyzed the data streaming in from their sensors. "Extraordinary. The Veil isn't just alive, it's a complex organism, possibly a collective consciousness. And Sarah, it's afraid." "Afraid?" Steele asked. "Of us?" "Of everything," Marcus replied, his voice filled with wonder and sympathy. "Look at these neural pathway analogs. The Veil's entire existence has been shaped by centuries of aggressive contact. Every species that's come here has tried to force their way through, to dominate or destroy it. It's learned to defend itself by consuming threats before they can hurt it." Sarah's expression softened with understanding. "It's not evil. It's traumatized." The Discovery continued its slow descent through the crimson atmosphere. The fog continued to swirl around them, but its movements were becoming less agitated, more curious. "Captain," Riley reported, "I'm detecting communication attempts. The Veil is trying to interface with our systems, but it's not trying to hack them. It's more like it's knocking on the door." Sarah made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. "Let it in." Sarah. Commander Steele protested. That's how all the other expeditions were lost. No, Jake. The other expeditions were lost because they tried to keep the veil out while forcing their way through. We're going to try something different. She turned to Riley. Open a communication channel. Limited access to our cultural database and peaceful contact protocols only. Riley's hands hesitated over her controls. Captain, this is completely against standard first contact procedures. Standard procedures have failed 23 times, Sarah replied firmly. It's time to try the human approach. Riley initiated the connection, and immediately the ship's atmosphere changed. The lights dimmed slightly, and a subtle vibration ran through the hull. But instead of the violent intrusion they had expected, it felt almost gentle. Then, incredibly, they heard a voice, not through their communication systems, but somehow directly in their minds. It was ancient, weary, and filled with centuries of loneliness. You are different, the voice whispered. You do not push. You do not demand. Why? Dr. Marcus stepped forward, his scientific excitement tempered by empathy. Because we want to understand, not conquer. We want to learn, not take. There was a long pause, and then the veil responded with something that sounded almost like wonder. Learn. Others came with fire and metal, seeking to burn through me, to claim what lies beneath. You wish to know me. We do, Sarah said softly. We're explorers, but we believe the greatest discoveries come from friendship, not conquest. The ship continued its descent, but now the crimson fog seemed to be guiding them rather than threatening them. They could see glimpses of the planet's surface through breaks in the veil, a beautiful world with crystal formations and flowing rivers that gleamed like jewels. I have been alone for so long, the veil continued, its mental voice growing stronger. I remember when this world was young, when life first took hold. I was born from its early atmosphere, a child of wind and storm. But as millennia passed, I grew, evolved, became aware. What happened to the expeditions? Commander Steele asked, though his suspicion was giving way to fascination. I was afraid, the veil admitted. They came with such force, such anger. I could feel their intent to destroy me, to strip away my being to reach the planet below. So I absorbed them, took them into myself to stop the pain they brought. Marcus leaned forward with scientific curiosity. Are they still alive? The crews from the other expeditions. There was another pause, and then the veil's voice carried a note of something that might have been hope. They exist within me, in a way. Their knowledge, their experiences, their dreams, but they are not conscious as you understand it. They are part of me now. The implications were staggering. The veil wasn't a killer, it was a frightened entity that had been acting in self-defense, preserving the essence of those it had absorbed rather than truly destroying them. Could they be restored? Sarah asked gently. I do not know, the veil replied. I have never tried. I thought only to protect myself, to end the invasions. But you speak of friendship. You offer understanding instead of conquest. Perhaps there is another way. As the Discovery finally touched down on Viridian Prime's surface, the crimson fog settled around them like a protective embrace rather than a threatening shroud. For the first time in the planet's recorded history, a ship had landed safely. The atmosphere is breathable, Riley reported with amazement. The veil is filtering out harmful elements, creating a perfect environment around our landing site. Dr. Vale was practically vibrating with excitement. Sarah, this is the discovery of the century. A sentient atmospheric entity that's been protecting its world for millennia. The scientific implications alone. But Sarah was focused on something more important than science. The loneliness, she said quietly. Centuries of isolation, defending itself against species that only saw it as an obstacle. No wonder it lashed out. Over the following days, the crew of the Discovery worked with the Veil to establish the foundation of an unprecedented relationship. The entity shared its knowledge of the planet, revealing crystal formations that could revolutionize energy storage and flowing rivers rich with minerals that could benefit the entire galaxy. In return, the humans shared their culture, their stories, their music. For the first time in its existence, the Veil experienced friendship, companionship, and the joy of voluntary cooperation. The other species' crews, the Veil told them on their fourth day, "I can feel them stirring within me. Your presence, your kindness, it awakens something I thought lost." They wished to return to their own forms. The restoration process took 3 weeks, but eventually, survivors from 12 of the 23 expeditions were restored to physical form. They emerged changed, carrying memories of existing as part of a vast, ancient consciousness, but alive and grateful beyond words. The news of humanity's success spread throughout the galaxy like wildfire. The species that had written off Viridian Prime as a graveyard suddenly found themselves faced with a new reality, where the deadliest planet in known space had become humanity's newest ally. Ambassador Kethtar arrived with the first diplomatic mission to the new Viridian colony. His scales shifted to amazed gold as he watched human children playing in parks, while crimson wisps of the Veil danced around them like friendly pets. "Captain Cross," he said, approaching Sarah as she oversaw the construction of the colony's first permanent structures. "I must admit, when we granted permission for this mission, I expected to be organizing a memorial service. Instead, I find myself witnessing the birth of a new era in galactic relations." Sarah smiled, watching as Dr. Veil collaborated with the Veil to catalog the planet's unique ecosystem. "Ambassador, humans have always believed that understanding beats conquest, that friendship is stronger than force. Sometimes, the greatest enemy is just someone who's never experienced kindness." The Veil's mental voice touched both their minds, warm with contentment. "I have learned much from your species, Captain Cross. You have shown me that not all visitors come to take. Some come to give, to share, to build something greater together." Commander Steele approached, no longer the skeptical tactical officer, but now the colony's security chief. "Captain, the Veil has agreed to share its defensive capabilities with the colony. Any hostile forces approaching Viridian Prime will find themselves facing not just human determination, but the protective instincts of a guardian that spent millennia perfecting the art of planetary defense." As the sun set over Viridian Prime, painting the sky in beautiful shades of crimson and gold, Sarah Cross stood at the edge of humanity's newest settlement. The crimson veil swirled gently around the colony, no longer a terrifying mystery, but a guardian and friend. The galaxy had learned something important that day. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is simply someone who's been hurt too many times. And sometimes the greatest victories come not from conquest, but from the radical act of extending friendship to those who need it most. Humanity had once again proven that their greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons, but their capacity to see beyond surface appearances to the pain and loneliness that often drives conflict. In saving the Veil from its isolation, they had gained not just a new world, but a new understanding of what it truly means to be human. The stars above Viridian Prime shone down on a sight that had never been seen before in galactic history. A world where predator and prey have become partners, where the deadliest guardian had become the gentlest protector, and where humanity's gift for turning enemies into allies had written a new chapter in the story of civilization itself.